Okay. Hi, Martin. Thank you
Hey,
very,
how are
very
you?
much for joining us today. Welcome to Tenerife and welcome to the Peter Lloyd Golf Academy. Thanks for taking your time to be with us to answer a few questions. And would you please present yourself, a bit about your person and your golf discipline?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, first of all. Greetings from Munich, right? It's the weather is not as good as in Tenerife probably, but we're trying to do our best, right? These crazy times, during these crazy times, we have to do something, right? And yeah, so my discipline is actually long drive, and that has nothing to do with driving or like the 24-hour race or something, right? It's a golf discipline. So it's the most extreme discipline in golf. So we try to hit the ball as far as possible, and we have 6 tries. So the best of our 6 tries counts. So we go to the max, and we are basically the highest risk golfers out there, right? And yeah, I'm actually competing in the US right now. We cannot compete, but I'm actually playing on the World Long Drive Tour all over the US, and I'm ranked 9th right now in the world, and I'm the highest
Wow.
ranked European.
Right, fantastic, fantastic. So, well, we are doing a series of videos talking about the impact and the importance of impact. So we describe a few things about every law. So now, this time, we would like to speak about law number 4, the speed. And well, you are one of the person or the person who can talk about speed, I guess. So we have prepared a few questions, and it would be lovely if we can get your answers and your advice for a few things. So if you start
Sure.
asking, please.
Yeah. Aren't you the fastest swinger on earth?
Well, I don't know if I'm the fastest swinger, but I hit
The
the
club speed is the fastest, no?
yeah. It's I don't know actually, because there are a couple of guys out there that are pretty fast as well in terms of club speed. But I just hit the fastest ball in the world recently. So I hit the unofficial world record in ball speed. That was 231.9 miles an hour. And it was, I actually did it at the same place where the former world record was also hit. So at West Palm Beach, like a couple of weeks ago when I flew out to the US to actually compete, but then everything was locked down. So I had to fly back.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so I hit the fastest ball speed, and to have a fast ball speed, you obviously also need a fast club speed. But there are a couple of guys out there, I would say a handful of players that are topping out at 155.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic! Congratulations. So, at what distance are we talking about when you start competing in long hitting? What would be a distance? Like me with my 240 meters and my pathetic 100 miles an hour swing, I don't think I'm gonna stand much chance at your tournament.
Well, it's the honest answer is it depends. That's like asking what score do you need to be a professional golfer, right? Depends on the course, the conditions, the field, everything. But most of the time, so we play into a grid, right? So we actually have outlines on the left and on the right. And the grid, most of the time, starts at 300 yards for the open division. For ladies, it starts at 250. So that's where it starts. But I would say most of the time, because it depends on the conditions out there, right? Ground, how much does the ball roll? Because we measure total distance. Then wind, obviously, elevation, altitude. Never underestimate altitude, because when you play up in the mountains, right, in Mexico, a ball that would go 300 would go like 380, 400 over there. It's the same ball, right? It's just altitude. And but most of the time the 400 mark is a pretty good number. So that's most of the time the number we all chase. And yeah, 400 yards is the 180 in darts.
Yeah, that would be like a 360 meters.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. So what would be your club speed, more or less, an average?
Yeah, so club speeds on average. Oh, that's a good question, because getting into sets, so we play, as I said, we play through a set of 6 balls, and everyone's got a little bit of a different strategy, because some guys go out there and hit their first 2 balls, so they try to hit a little smoothie down there, so they're a lot slower, obviously, and then amp it up, right? Others have different strategies and just go for the max for the 6 balls. So average club speeds really depend, but I would say it's around the 150 mark. So it also depends on which launch monitor you actually use, right? When you use TrackMan, that is a different number to Foresight, that is a different number to Flight Scope, but 150 is a good rule of thumb.
150 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
For a driver, but
my maximum speed ever would have been 105, and then that was really a fantastic day.
Yeah, that's actually a good topic, because it depends on all these factors, right? Form of the day, temperature, like your practice cycle, where you at, if you try to peak right now or not, right? It's not like we're swinging at 155 all year long. You have to cycle your season, right? It's a lot of performance management we have to take into account. And well, then in my defense, our clubs are a little bit longer than the average golf club. So we spec out to the max allowed by USGA and RNA as well, and that is 48 inches. So the usual driver is probably like 45, sometimes 44 to 46, I would say, depending on the player, right? But yeah, that's what we do. And obviously our lofts are a lot lower than the normal loft. I would say the average loft is like 10, maybe 10.5 degrees, sometimes 9, 8 for really good players. So we spec out between 2 and 5 degrees. So that is a little bit different.
Aside of being a long hitter, a champion, you're also a world-class athlete. And my question to you is, do you work a lot on your mobility and on the flexibility of your body? Is that something important for you, and to create distance?
Yeah, so I do have my practice and stretching routine, obviously, right? So I stretch every day. I do the same stretches over and over again. That became part of my daily routine. Right, but for me that's nothing special anymore, because I do it 15 minutes every day before I go to bed, and that's about it, right? So especially in your upper torso, flexibility is very important, because we rotate that much. So sometimes you see 130, 140 degrees of rotation at long drive swings, and to be capable to do that, you need a certain amount of flexibility and also strength, obviously, because to push you into that position, you need to have a fairly dynamic golf swing.
Yeah, John Daly, he pushed it till 110 degrees, so 150 degrees. That's incredible. I just arrived achieving 90 degrees, then I'm happy, you know.
Yeah,
really,
but
really cool.
I mean, long drive is a little different to golf, right? When I play golf, I don't turn 130 degrees. So but you can always amp it down and amp it up, right? And in long drive, we try to go to the max, because we have 6 tries. So it's more or less like a scramble with yourself, and you have 6 tries all the time. But that sounds fairly easy, but doing that in front of a crowd of millions of people watching, it's a whole nother story, right? And especially into a grid that is roughly 40 to 60 yards wide, at those distances, at like 400 yards out there, that looks pretty tiny. So especially at these speeds, because we're talking speed, every degree of face angle and every degree of club path that is not right is an OB ball, right? When I'm like more than minus 0.8 or plus 0.8 degrees in face angle, my ball is gone. So actually we have to be more precise than the normal golfer, because speeds obviously multiply your mistakes.
And also you have very few spin on the ball, which makes the ball go more left and right as well.
Yeah, well, actually not. So the low spin is actually something we can benefit from, because it also depending on the conditions, you need more or less spin on the ball. When it's downwind, you need a little more spin on the ball because you want that ball to stay up in the air, right? And the wind to push it. Into wind, it's vice versa, obviously. But under normal conditions with no wind, we're looking for a launch angle between 14 and 16 degrees and a spin rate between 15 and 1900. And that lower spin actually also means less side spin. And less side spin means less curvature, right? But well, at these speeds, still, if you hit it a degree off, the spin will be off the chart. So well, it's long drive.
Yeah. What would you say? Because you used to play golf. You're a golfer as well. Do you still play golf, or do you have no more time to play?
Well, right now I cannot play golf because all our courses are closed.
Yeah, sure.
but sometimes, I mean, I'm very grateful for having my simulator right here at my office, because I can actually practice all day long, and especially right now, as I don't have anything to prepare for because our next event is in September. I'm not trying to peak right now, obviously, so I play a bit more golf as well, just for recreation. And yeah, so when I simulate with putting, so I'm putting myself on my foresight machine, then I play, don't know, between 2 under and 6 under or something, so I can play a little bit of golf. Yeah, out there on the course, probably it's in the low 70s right now, I would reckon. But yeah, I can't make it on the European Tour or somewhere, right? Really professionally, but I think I wouldn't slow down play.
What would be, in your opinion, the biggest difference between a golfer and a long hitter's swing?
Yeah, so if you look technique wise, on the you barely see people, I mean, unless John Daly, that go past parallel on the tour, right? There's some
Bubba
exceptions
Watson.
like Bubba Watson, for example, but it's very rare. And on the long drive tour, it's vice versa. So very rarely you see people that do not go past parallel, right? There's some out there, but most people try to make a turn as much as possible to actually create as much way as possible the club can accelerate. So the longer you swing back, the more time you actually have to accelerate the club. And speed matters, especially in long drive. Without speed, I mean, there are some guys out there that launch the ball perfectly and are barely past 200 ball speed. Long drive more or less starts at 200 ball speed. But, well, you know, there's speed. And as Kyle Berkshire won the World Championship, everybody focused that much on speed. And the guys out there are so fast now. It would be very unusual if every one of them would have a bad day on a certain date, right? Because you actually need to be fast to be competitive. So most people swing back as much as possible. What you see then is you see those long drivers' feet are all over the place when they swing. It's almost like Bubba Watson, right? You see that left heel will lift off the ground, right? You see a little bit of knee change as well on the right side. People are elevating themselves and then squat down. And
Nicholas did that as well.
Exactly. At impact again, you see an upright move again. So people try to use vertical thrust to push the ball even more. So everything is basically based on speed. So they try to combine these little things in the golf swing and do it at an extreme to push speed. Yeah.
Now, to push speed like you and your colleagues do, you have to be a super athlete. Now, my question to you is, a lot of our viewers are seniors like me, and what would be your advice to work on first to gain some speed? Would it be the body, the power of your muscles, or would it be the flexibility? In your opinion, what should we seniors start working on if you want to gain some speed, except for the technique, of course?
Well, there's no one answer to that. That it's very individual, and I would recommend anyone to work with a coach to work on their deficits to create speed, because there's some people there, out there that actually cannot turn more because they have injuries or whatever, right? For some reason they cannot. So I would not encourage them to swing even further back, right? That doesn't make sense. Then what got very popular over the last couple of years, I would say, is those speed sticks, right? You see all these guys out there working with the speed sticks and with different weights, right? Do overspeed training. I feel like that got hyped that much. It's very good. Don't get me wrong. It's very good, but it is one tool in the toolbox for speed, right? And there's 100. It's a tiny part that absolutely makes sense, but to do proper speed training, you got to do more than overspeed training. There's resistance training, there's impact training. There's so many factors in the golf swing that play a role to create speed. First, I guess you should get your sequence right before you get into overspeed training, because I believe that you can do both. You can practice speed and technique at the same time with the right tools, but you need some guy, some coach who can find the right things for you. And I'm an athlete, I'm not a coach, right? I mean, I can give you, I can tell you what worked for me, but that doesn't mean that it works for you or for another senior, for example, because they have completely different bodies, right?
Here at the Golf Academy, the first thing we do when we have a course that goes 3 or 5 days, we do a TPI test, a Titleist Performance Institute test. So the first thing we want to know is what can the pupil do with his body and what can he not do. And in function of that, or we do something about the body, or we go around the body and then build a swing like this.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And most of the TPI principles in terms of speed are somehow related to the long drive guys and what they've tried out, because they do it at an extreme, so you can actually test if it works, and then you can somehow transform it to make it usable for the average Joe. And if you look at these guys who actually contributed to the work of TPI, there's lots of long drive guys out there.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much for this very nice interview and all the inputs that you gave to us and to our viewers. We wish you, of course, a lot of luck on the tour, and we hope to see you very soon in Tenerife, so we can arrange our tournament, maybe the first tournament of the year. That would be really nice, but we stay in touch and we work on it.
Thanks, guys, and let's stay safe and let's hope for the best, right? That this is over soon and we can go out again.
Exactly, that's the most important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So take good care and talk to you soon.
Thank you for your time.
Cheers.
Bye, Martin.
Bye.
Bye-bye.